Republican Congressman Brandon Gill of Mound, thank you so much and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Good to hear from you, Jack. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So, want to start with these mass firings or layoffs that we're seeing of federal employees, probationary federal employees across the country, including here in North Texas. And I want to get your reaction to this. And what do you say to these employees who say they've received these emails saying that they are, being laid off, being fired, and that they are performance based?
Yeah, well, I would say, first of all, what House Republicans are doing, and I'm a member of the Doge subcommittee, which is a part of the oversight committee, sort of the legislative arm of the Doge movement. Elon Musk is, of course, in the executive, is we are looking for waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal government. And so far, we've identified just on the executive arm of Doge, hundreds of billions of dollars of waste. Just this past week, we had a hearing on the subcommittee where we identified $2.7 trillion in improper payments that have been going out from Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. These are going to people who shouldn't be getting them, oftentimes to entities in other countries. So this is the kind of waste, fraud, and abuse that we are looking at ending. I think that there is an enormous amount of duplicative functions across the federal government. And what we're trying to do is save taxpayer dollars, shore up the viability of these programs, and make sure that we can continue providing benefits for the long term. And that will mean rationalizing a lot of the programs that we've been wasting money on.
And so just because I do want to ask you about some of the programs that you were discussing as well, but just as it relates to the federal employees, um, yesterday I believe the White House said in some documents or maybe in a lawsuit that what's going on with federal employees is the work from federal agencies, not Doge. Is that your understanding? And you know, the employees I spoke to one employee who said that their performance was very good, and now they're being told, perhaps as a justification, that, that their performance wasn't good. So, what do you say to all that?
I would say that we've got multiple programs going on right now to identify waste. We've got what Elon Musk is doing in the executive branch. That's one thing. We've got what we're doing on the legislative branch as a member of the Doge committee. That's another thing. We've got a lot coming up on that, by the way, particularly going after taxpayer funded left wing media. But there are also other areas. We are 37 trillion dollars in debt right now. We are running $2 trillion deficits every single year. Our country is flat out broke. We do not have the money to be wasting on either left-wing pet projects or on duplicative services or on waste, fraud, or abuse. And that's what we are going after. We are getting our country back to fiscal sanity, getting our country back on a track that is economically sustainable. So we are going to be seeing a lot of rationalization across the federal government, but this is what the people want. That's why President Trump is polling at a 53% approval rating. That's why Elon Musk and the Doge movement are polling higher than President Biden did on his way out of the office, because the American people want to see fiscal sanity. They want to see common sense return to Washington, and that's what we're doing.
With regards to the federal employees, are you saying, do you believe that the federal government just has too many employees, that these agencies are bloated with people?
Well, I think that that is certainly one of the problems. Another one is that we've had a difficult time getting taxpayer-funded federal employees back into the office after COVID. Many of them began working from home and won't even show up to work now. So that's something that we're going after as well. Listen, if our taxpayer dollars are going to fund anything, we need to know where it's going, to whom, to what entity, and we need to know that it's effective. And that's what we're trying to figure out right now.
And one last question on the employees. Is there a goal? I believe I read that the administration sent out buyout offers to federal employees to about 200,000 nationwide, 75 accepted. And so I guess that leaves 125,000. Do you know what the target is for the number of employees to be reduced by the federal government?
I think that that is something that we're still working through. I think 75,000 out of 200,000 is definitely a very high number. That is something that we have been looking for. We just want to make sure that our taxpayer dollars are serving the American people, not serving a bloated, unaccountable bureaucracy that does not account what they're doing to the American people or to the executive or to the legislature. So there could be more. We'll see. We've got a lot of work to do here.
Last night in an interview, Elon Musk said Doge has a goal of cutting $1 trillion from the deficit. How much more do you believe needs to be trimmed? And isn't that really going to have to be Congress that's going to have to do this?
Well, so far the Doge movement has identified between 50 and $100 billion every single year in either wasteful or outright fraudulent payments, and that's across a variety of programs. And they've only just gotten started. Remember, President Trump has only been in office for about a month now, so this is still in its infancy. You know, the American taxpayers are sick of spending $2 million on transgender surgeries in Guatemala or $50 million for DEI scholarships in Asia or $500 million every single year to pay for left-wing media outlets that bash our most deeply held convictions routinely and run cover for Democrats. So there's a lot of waste that we can go after long before we touch any kind of entitlement program. And let me tell you, what we're doing with Medicaid, for instance, is not cutting benefits. We are, first of all, looking to make sure that the people getting benefits are actually entitled to them. We don't want our taxpayer dollars going to fund illegal aliens. We don't want our taxpayer dollars going to improper payments or fraudulent claims. And these are the kinds of things that we're going after. If we want to promote the viability and ensure the economic viability of a program like Medicaid, we have got to make sure that we are not wasting money. This is how we're going to protect benefits, exactly what we're doing right now.
I was going to ask you about that because the Democratic House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, was in Fort Worth this past weekend with Congressman Mark Vesey, bringing attention to the fact that Republicans are proposing cuts to Medicaid. And so I was going to ask you to react to that, which they say would be very damaging to people.
Well, I would simply ask if my colleagues on the other side of the aisle think that it's appropriate to be giving Medicaid benefits to illegal aliens who have trespassed on our territory and are now um, basically uh, stealing taxpayer dollars for their own benefit. Is that appropriate? I don't think so, and I don't think the American people do either. I also don't think it's appropriate for our taxpayer dollars to be laundered in various fraudulent schemes. Again, these are the things that we're going after. If the other side of the aisle wants to defend giving welfare to illegal aliens or defend the continuance of fraudulent claims being made, they are absolutely welcome to.
And my last question on this subject of cutting federal spending, I want to go back to what I asked you before. At the end of the day, even after all this is identified, isn't Congress going to have to be the ones to actually eliminate all this stuff? And isn't that easier said than done considering past history?
Well, you're right. Congress will have to have a big role in this process. And that is a difficult thing to do because we don't have 60 votes in the Senate, and the Democrats in the Senate would love to continue spending our taxpayer dollars on welfare for illegal aliens or for left-wing pet social projects around the globe. So we are going to have to fight for this. I think some of this can be done via the reconciliation process, which is something that does not require 60 votes in the Senate. That's something that we can do with just Republican support. But there is also a good amount of this that can be done through the executive, and there are different things that are being looked at right now regarding impoundment. That's another issue to deal with. So there are ways to reduce this spending, but you're exactly right. Congress is going to have to have a key role in this. And my message has been very clear for a long time. I think that Congress's biggest priority should be providing legislative backup for President Trump to codify and make permanent the executive orders that he's been issuing. And in this case, to actually make these spending cuts and rationalizations and ending waste, fraud, and abuse, make all of this permanent so that we don't have to deal with this in the future.
And you brought up the Senate before, but isn't this also going to require a united front by Republicans who have a history of not being united when it comes to the House?
You know, it is, and that's something that we're working through right now. We've begun the reconciliation process. I'm a member of the Budget Committee, and we passed out of the committee just last week the budget instructions. And you're right, we have a very slim majority in the House, so we are going to have to coalesce everybody to get this big, beautiful bill that implements the Trump agenda passed. But I can tell you that Republicans are united in securing the border. They are united on deporting criminal illegal aliens. They're united in unleashing American energy to bring energy prices down for the American people and fighting back against the woke and weaponized administrative state. We've got a lot of details regarding these goals that we need to iron out, but these are details that will get ironed out over the next few weeks and months. I feel really good about being able to get this one big beautiful bill done, passed through the House. We have the support of the president just earlier today tweeting about it. So we have the momentum behind us. We've just got to get everybody on board and iron out a few of the small details.
As you know, Governor Abbott was in Washington, D.C. Last week and
Mhm.
the week before, really pressing his case for Congress to reimburse the state $11.1 billion that the state has spent to secure the border. And I'm wondering, how is that looking? And are Republicans through all the states united behind that, not just Texas Republicans?
Yep. So we met with Governor Abbott last week while he was in DC. And what's happened for 4 years under the Biden administration is the left intentionally opened up our southern border, flooded our communities with illegal aliens who have been murdering, raping, and pillaging our people. Now, Texas stood in the gap, and I applaud Governor Abbott for doing that in securing the border on their own dime. And what we're saying is that whenever the federal government did not uphold their end of the bargain to protect the American people and specifically the people of Texas, they need to reimburse Texas for those costs. There's just over $11 billion that the state of Texas spent on border security over the last 4 years. Every single Republican member, excuse me, of the Texas delegation is united in pushing for that. I can tell you whenever you have 24 members who are all pushing for the same thing, that goes a long ways. And I think that we'll be able to get support from other parts of the congressional conference as well.
And my last question to you is just about the concerns over tariffs. I know we're in a cooling off period right now, a 30-day period with tariffs going on, 25% tariff going on Mexico, goods that come from Mexico and goods that come from Canada, 10% on energy from Canada. And I'm wondering, have you heard from businesses in Texas, in your district, who are very concerned about the potential for tariffs and what impact this might have on the state, considering that Texas by far is the #1 exporting state in the United States?
Well, that's a good question, Jack. And I think the thing that helps here is that this isn't the first time that President Trump has implemented tariffs. Of course, he did that during his first administration. And I think there are really two goals here. The first is to actually promote real free trade and actually promote the actual free market here. Right now, the international trade playing field isn't level. We are exporting our goods to other countries, which are being tariffed in their countries. Foreign countries are taxing American businesses. And yet, many foreign countries are able to sell their goods into America without any kind of taxation. And what we're doing is simply leveling the playing field via reciprocal tariffs to say that if you tax our businesses, we're going to tax yours. And the hope here is that everybody can lower taxes and we can have a truly free market. So I think that that's the first goal here, and I think most businesses realize that. The second, though, is a realization that it does not make sense for the United States to be dependent upon foreign nations, particularly hostile ones, for key commodities, for energy, for instance, for key pharmaceutical products, for key semiconductor inputs. That is a national security crisis, in my opinion, and I think the American people agree with us. We would like to be able to produce a lot of these really crucial goods that run our economy, that run our healthcare system in the United States, and I think that tariffs are part of the solution towards moving us in the right direction.
We will have to leave it there. North Texas Congressman Brandon Gill of Flower Mound, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Jack, thanks for having me.